Welcome to another episode of Grounds for Conversations. I'm your host, Amber Noble, and again, my best friend, Aimee Raggio, is here with us. And today it's going to be a little different. Usually we have a subject we talk about, then we jump into an extra shot.
Right.
And we are going to talk about something today, but something that we want to invite you into a journey with us.
Mm-hmm.
Is that a good way to say it?
Yeah.
So let's talk a little bit about this.
Okay.
First of all. Okay. So, a long time ago, 2016,
Mm-hmm.
Aimee brought me this book and she said, hey, first of all, let me back up before she hands me the book. She goes, how do you feel about fasting? And I'm like, do I give her the Christian answer or do I tell her the truth? And I'm like, well, I mean, I believe it's a very biblical thing.
Right.
I understand it, whatever, And she's like, I didn't know if she was inviting me into because, they were doing a 21-day fast. And we've always been on staff at churches where we've done fasts. And to be honest, as a kid, fasting didn't make a lot of sense to me.
Right.
Our church would do fasting and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And it wasn't until I became an adult that I heard Pastor Jensen Franklin teach on fasting. And it was one of the most profound and easy to understand messages. Like I've heard sermons on fasting and we would walk away and I'm like, but I still don't get it.
Right.
So why are you saying we need to do this?
Right.
Right. And so Pastor Jensen Franklin has preached on it. He's written several books. We can tag those in the notes. That'd be good.
Sure. Yeah.
Because if you're like, hey, fasting's new to me or I hate fasting, this is great teaching. But so Aimee comes to me and she's like, hey, how do you feel about fasting? And I'm like, yeah. We should all do it, right? And so she said, well, this is something that I got this book and you had done it before and you were like, this is so amazing. I want to invite you into this. And I got you a copy. So our friendship was still pretty young. And I'm like, what is she trying to say? And I got a little defensive, like, why do you think I want to read this book on fasting? Like I've read books on fasting. And she's like, no, it's a different kind of book. And so what we want to talk to you about today is really inviting you into this journey that we've been on for a long time. For me, this is my 9th year to do it. And we even created a Facebook page that when this starts, we want you to get the book and join us. And so that's kind of what we want to talk about today.
Right.
All right. So let's dive in first before we start talking about this, what we're going to be doing.
Sure.
Let's talk a little bit about fasting in general.
Okay.
Because I think that people get it's funny. People get real defensive. They get real like, well, you don't know what fasting is, or that's not how you fast. And most of the time they get defensive because they've been fasting and they're really hungry. So they're mad.
I think a lot of times people, especially in today's society, we've linked fasting food to a very negative experience that comes on the other side of it.
Right.
And fasting for reasons that are not spiritual or religious reasons is crazily uncomfortable, and usually they're leading into something that is progressively more uncomfortable.
Right. Well, let's talk about that for a second, because fasting on a medical side of things, right? That we were looking it up and talking about it earlier. When you're going to have tests run or blood work done,
right,
or a surgery, or you're gonna have a baby.
They
know, like if you're going in for a scheduled C-section, they say don't eat anything after midnight the night before. And I don't know that I've ever even thought about that. You know, like, hey, we're gonna run blood work. We need you to fast. And you're like, okay. And I know that when they're going to do blood work, I will schedule it as early in the morning because I drink cream in my coffee.
Mm-hmm.
And so you're not allowed to have cream. And I'm like, look, if we're drawing blood at 2:00 in the afternoon, I'm going to hate life today if I don't get coffee. So, but I was like, I never thought about the why behind fasting before blood work or before a procedure. And basically, the reason just summed up is because the food can get in the way or it can hide the problem that they're looking for.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought about that for a minute and I thought, that is pretty profound because food, you have to have food and water to live.
Sure.
And yet, in order for a problem to be found, we're going to remove the food because it can get in the way. And you look at that on the physical side, right? When it comes to medically speaking, it's not much different on the spiritual side, right? And we're going to talk a little bit about that. But I love the fact that taking away something that we need and we enjoy. I mean, we're Americans. We eat. Everything we do is around food, right? When we have friends coming in to see us or, we're going to go out with people, what do? Where are we going to eat? Everything's around that. And so to remove something like that for a spiritual purpose, oftentimes that's the moment when God's like, now that I've got your attention, let's look at this. Right. Here's where the problem is at. Here's what's going on. And I just think it's incredible.
It's extremely incredible.
Yeah.
And we have these physical things that happen to our bodies when we fast and when we go without food for a period of time. But it encompasses so much more than that. I mean, it's not so different for us today as it was in the Bible days. The attitude and the moods and the emotions that surround food.
Right.
I mean, the very first miracle that Jesus performed where he turned water into wine was at a wedding feast.
Right.
And he refers to himself as the bread of life. And how many of his miracles involved food? And so what do we do when we have a big win in our society or just in the world? We celebrate with food. What do we do when we lose a loved one? We mourn with food. And so, so much of our survival, not just our physical survival, but our emotional survival. Wow. Our emotional survival, our relational survival, so much of our all around sustenance comes at a table.
Right.
A real table or a figurative table, but it happens at a table.
Well, you think about the deepest conversations, if you're a parent, the deepest conversations you've had with your kids are at the dinner table.
Sure.
They're going to talk. I've, 26 years in ministry with young adults and students. If I want to know what's going on in someone's life, I just feed them. And they're going to tell you.
Absolutely. And it's what we do. But that's even how it's a big part of how we relate to God through communion.
Yeah.
And so that's a question that I have that just popped into my mind that I didn't research before because I didn't have this question before.
Yeah.
When you fast, do you forego communion? I mean, you do, but the actual taking of communion.
You know what? Anybody I know that's ever done including Phil is like
water only.
Yeah. He's that kind of faster. When he's broken the fast, he breaks it with communion. Yeah. Which is super powerful.
I think that is very powerful.
If you understand what communion is, Jesus, right before he goes to lay his life down, is sitting with the disciples and he breaks the bread and he said, this is my body. And they have no clue what's going on. And he's like, I will be broken for you.
Sure.
So when you do this, remember me. And then he passes the cup and he's like, this represents my blood that's going to be poured out. Take this and remember me. And so something super powerful about coming off of a fast, whether it's a Daniel fast or a 21-day fast or whatever, breaking it with communion is just going, okay, I did all that for you, Jesus. And now I'm I'm breaking that with remembering you. It's pretty powerful.
What an amazing way to address one of the most primal base needs that anyone has.
Food.
And not just food, but with communion.
Oh, yeah.
With the blood and body of Christ.
For sure. Yeah.
Right.
It's powerful. Okay, so let's talk. I know we don't want to spend our whole time talking about fasting in the sense of fasting, but let's kind of go through some of the whys, the whats, and everything.
Let's do it.
So that we can get to what we really want to talk about.
Right.
Yeah, that would be good. Okay, so tell me for you, like your thoughts as we've researched and talked about this. Why
do we fast?
Yeah.
So I'm sitting here with my laptop open in front of me, which I don't usually do because I get tempted to just read it. But I think there are really a lot of reasons why we fast, but just to touch on a few of them. In studying for this podcast, I discovered that the Bible mentions 46 instances of fasting.
Yeah.
In there. And each fast was for a little bit of a different reason.
Right.
And some of those may apply to us. And I would dare say all of them apply to us at some point in our life. But I think the main reason as a Christian today, why we would want to fast is as a point of spiritual discipline.
Not only Christianity is not the only religion.
Oh,
that fasts.
absolutely
I mean,
not.
you've got
it's the only
Muslim
religion
faith.
I know about, though.
That's what I am. That's the religion. But like even Muslims, they have Ramadan. And so their eating time during that is very strict. So it's a strict dying to self.
Sure.
Is really what it is, right?
Right.
Okay.
Right. Also, we don't fast in an attempt to strong arm God or to force.
We shouldn't fast
No.
in that attempt. I would say, let's be honest, there are people that do.
I would think it's a temptation of all of us.
For sure. To be like, look, if I give up this mac and cheese and this fried chicken tonight that I really want to eat, but I'm going to give it up. I expect tomorrow morning when I get up, God, for you to open up the windows of heaven and do what I need you to do because I didn't eat that meal.
Let's be honest. We will see occasions like that in the Bible where people put out a fleece in front of God.
Right. But that's not what this is talking about.
But that's not what we're talking about. We do not fast in order to manipulate God into acquiescing to our wants and whims.
Well, and I think that's where individually we have to each evaluate our heart and go, what's the motive here?
Right.
What's the motive here?
Sure.
When it comes to the physical side, when it's like medically, the motive is to clear things out of the way so they can find the problem. It should be the same exact motive when it comes to us spiritually. Is I'm going to clear the path for God to reveal the very thing that He wants to work on. Whether it's I need to find forgiveness, I need to, I'm believing God for a healing. I've got to let some things go, or I just need a detox.
Well, I'm going to make this like way oversimplified. It's like clear. We have a giant closet under our stairs, which has become something of a walk-in junk drawer at our house, if you can imagine.
You know, we have one too, but it's called the Christmas closet because this house turns into Christmas land.
Well, this closet was intended, there's lots of nice shelves in there that my husband built. It was intended to store seasonal decor that I display on the mantle.
Pause. You have a mantle closet. Goals. I have a closet that's all of my Christmas junk for the whole house. You have a closet that's just for your mantle.
Okay.
That's amazing.
But it's not Christmas,
I'm so
though.
impressed
It's like anything that I would put on the mantle throughout the year.
A mantle is not...
But, vases. But those things may go to other places.
I just want you to know. I'm just publicly telling the world I'm impressed that you have that.
I'm impressed that you rabbit trailed and not me.
Facts. Okay.
No, it's... Okay, let me move on before I forget. Okay. No,
you have this closet.
I have this closet, and it becomes the dumping ground of everything that you need to stash quickly before company drops in. Or you just...
It's like a giant junk drawer.
Right. Something new you brought into the house, you don't have anywhere to put it. Case in point, we have a new grandbaby at our house.
The most beautiful human being that's ever
straight
been
facts.
born. And I will not lie to people and tell them that their babies are beautiful. I think all babies have a cute factor to them, but I'll be like, look at all those toes. Your kid's got all his toes.
He is a very pretty baby.
He's so pretty.
Yeah.
And the first time I met him, I couldn't hold him because I had a little bit of a sinus thing going on.
It broke your heart, didn't it?
I grieved.
Yeah.
Then the next time I got him, I just scooped him up and just ate him up.
As handsome as he is, he brings a lot of stuff.
Lots of stuff.
And so the mantle closet is sort of now the baby stuff dumping ground. And but I have accepted the fact that I'm going to have to make space in the things that I've valued and held dear, so that something much more precious.
Oh, that's good.
Can now fill that space.
That's so good.
That's really what fasting is about for us. It's let's sweep out the cobwebs. You know, every time I clean out that closet, it's like dead in the middle of my house. It's not even near an entry door. I am shocked at how much just flotsam and jetsam is on the floor in there. You know, you pick it and you're like, how did sand get there? And you open the door and you see all the junk on top, and you move it out, and you got to get all the way in the little nooks and crannies.
Yeah.
And you got to sweep that out.
Right.
And you want it nice and clean so that you can put the precious thing back in its place. And that's what fasting does in our hearts, in our minds.
Good. It puts the precious thing back in its place.
It makes room.
It makes room. Okay. So let's talk about that a little bit. Have you ever had a junk drawer? Which everybody does.
I have a walk-in junk closet.
You have a walk-in junk closet, but a junk drawer where you have put stuff. It's oftentimes junk drawers where it's in the kitchen, and where it's the kitchen, the heart of the home. You're constantly preparing for your family, and you've got kids, and the kids have friends, and you got company, you got life group, and people are coming over, and it's like you clear everything, you're wiping everything down, and then what is this? I don't know. Stick it in there. Okay. Every single one of us have come to a place before where we went to open that drawer, but because so much has gotten stuck in there, the drawer won't open.
Right.
Something is jammed. What is jammed? I don't know. What is stuck in there? I don't know.
A potato masher.
Well, okay. The other day, I'm not even, this is truth. My oldest Justice had bought me, it was so funny. He bought me a luchador bottle opener for my Topo Chico. And it looks like, it's so funny. He's like squeezing the bottle. So when you pop the top,
pop its little head off. Yeah.
Well, it's so funny. I don't know how, but that little guy, instead of being in the drawer that he belongs in, got put into the junk drawer. And he was sitting up and he jammed the junk drawer. And I couldn't get it open. And then when I had to go up underneath, like it was a whole thing. Then I find out that it's the luchador. But what are you talking about, Amber? Here's what I'm talking about. The fact that in our lives, that's what we do.
That's
like
what we
your
do.
Closet. It's like, where do I put this? I don't know. I got to put this away. I don't want people to know that I've got junk. I don't want people to know that there are things in my life that don't have a place. I mean, let's go there for a second.
Right.
Like, there are things in my life. I want people to go, oh, she's walking with the Lord. She's this kind of mom. She's this kind of wife. She's this kind of friend. She's this kind of professional. She's this kind of whatever. He's this kind of this. He's this kind of dad. He's this kind of boyfriend. He's this kind of husband, whatever it is. I don't want people to really know that there are stuff that I don't know what to do with, but I also am not strong enough to throw it away.
But let's go one step further. How many times have you stuck something in a place because you didn't know where else to put it, and it inadvertently took the spot of something far more important and valuable?
Well, yeah. You could not even get that drawer is for pens and batteries and
okay, but let's pause
pizza
right
coupons.
Here. and let's get I'm going to give you some homework to do right now. Do it right now. Pause the podcast.
Yeah. Go
to your junk drawer, open it, and find the thing of value that you forgot is in there. Do it right now. There's going to be a lot of junk. There's a nugget in there. Not a chicken nugget.
Maybe. You might have a chicken nugget in your drawer. Just kidding.
The last time I cleaned out our junk drawer, I didn't realize. So Cole had collected these coins. He's always collecting coins. So he had all these like old silver dollars from his great grandfather, and they had inadvertently got swept into the junk drawer months and months and months ago. And so I literally pull the trash can over to the junk drawer. I start throwing out the things that don't belong. And I pulled up the last of the junk drawer, and I get out my little dust buster, throwback to the 80s. And I'm about to dust buster out the drawer, and kind of stuck up in the crack where the wood comes together is one of those silver dollar coins just wedged in there.
Oh, wow.
And you can say, well, that's not really valuable. That's $1. Yeah, but it was great grandma's dollar.
Right.
Like, go to your junk drawer right now.
Yeah.
Find the thing of value that you know is in there, but you haven't seen in a while.
Yeah, that's good.
And so here's what's going to happen when you fast. You're going to clear out, and you're going to make room for new things to come in, and you're going to reveal the holy that was there all along.
Right. That's so good. I'm excited about this, and I think part of the reason is because we've, like you said a while ago, we've made it such a negative thing.
Mm-hmm.
And so throughout Scripture, you said, and we know that there's so many places where it's talking about fasting.
Mm-hmm.
And there is a lot of things that come out of that.
Mm-hmm.
We talk, a lot of churches do a Daniel fast, and, it's based off of Daniel refusing to eat the king's food.
Right.
And lived only on fruits and vegetables, and still was stronger. And it's a whole beautiful thing. So it's about, this whole idea of taking away and trusting God in the middle of all that. What are some other thoughts? I know you have some. We've talked about this a lot. What are some other thoughts you have on the fasting thing before we jump into the other?
Okay. I would say, if you're wanting to participate in a very strenuous fast, really pray about it and see if God's calling you to that. So one of the big questions that comes up in church circles is it like a rule? Like, is it a requirement as a Christian that I fast? And the answer is no. There's no commandment, there's no demand, and there's no edict in the Bible that says we must fast. However, it's strongly recommended and even expected that we do. There are a lot of instances in the Bible where we are told that the fasting of the saints made the difference in the outcome.
Right.
I'll refer you back to in Matthew chapter 17, and I don't know
verse
what
21.
verse. Yeah, okay, verse 21. The disciples have gone in and they've tried to cast a demon out of a boy, and it will not come out. And they are praying and they are doing it in Jesus' name, and this demon is not budging. And they go to Jesus, and can't you just see him like all Dennis the Menace up, like? But
Dennis the Menace.
They say, why? We've tried to cast this demon out in your name, and it's not coming out. And Jesus looks at him and he goes, man, you guys just don't have enough faith. Because if you had faith as tiny as the grain of mustard seed, even a mountain would get up and move. This kind comes out by prayer and fasting.
Okay, so pause there. I think this is monumental for us as believers. If there are things in your life, if there are things in my life that we're like, man, we've been praying, we've been seeking the Lord, we've been, reading our Bible, we've been studying this out. The key thing, and Jesus gives us that there. The key thing is fasting, because it's not just what you're doing. Fasting is what are you taking away?
But more importantly here is when they fasted. Should they have run up to that young man that was possessed of a demon and threw their lunch bag out of their satchel and said, I'm not eating until this demon comes out? No. Had they had faith before they were ever confronted with this demon, had they had faith that said, I know I'm going to face trials, but I'm going to pray and fast now in faith.
Right. That
when the time comes, I'll be able to cast this demon out. This goes all the way back to Daniel.
Well, that goes back to, what is that verse? We can't.
But my thing is, be prepared
2 Timothy
to give an
4
answer.
2. Right. 2 Timothy 4:2 says, be ready in every season.
Be ready in every season.
So you're not going to, you can't go, okay, well, someday when something happens, I'll figure it out. It's like, look, Lord, if I've given my life to you and I didn't immediately go to heaven and I'm still on this earth sucking air, you have a purpose for me. So what do I need to do? My purpose here no longer is about me. It's about the people that you've put in my life, the people you've surrounded me with, the people that I'm going to come across. What do I do to need to be ready? What do I need to do to be ready? Did I say that right? To be your hands and feet with these people.
Right.
Being ready.
My suggestion would be, if everything is going right in your life right now, first of all, congratulations. If everything is going right in your life and you are on the mountaintop and your teeth are glinting in the sunlight every time you smile, ding, fast now.
Facts, because it's
Fast
coming.
now. Make it a fast. It doesn't have to be a sad fast. Make it a happy fast. A fast of Thanksgiving.
Why do we always think fasting is a sad? Like sometimes.
Because we focus on the negative, just because we're made out of flesh and blood.
Well, okay, you said something.
How about thank God that I don't need this, whatever it is I'm fasting, I don't need this in my life because I have one greater. I have something greater.
You said, is it mandatory? No, but obviously we know that scripture says no, but it's necessary.
It's necessary, but there's not a commandment for it.
And I think that's, I'm going to go as far as to say, I think we need to recognize that fasting is holy. It's so holy and it's super personal. And so I love, all the years we've been on staff at churches, we've always done church fast. I do think that sometimes churches almost bully people in, like, hey, if you're not fasting with us, what's wrong with you? You know what I'm saying? And so there's this whole, and I don't agree with that. I agree with saying, hey, let's do this, and everyone is welcome. And if you feel led to do that, join us. Right. But to say, no, our church is not eating, I don't think that we have the right to tell people, because fasting is personal. Fasting is super personal.
But let me go out on a limb here. This just came to me. I've done many a corporate fast before, as you have, and a lot of you guys have as well. It is extremely personal. I have always been resistant to a corporate fast because I feel like that part of my spiritual life is extremely intimate, and I don't want to share it with just anyone.
That's what I'm saying. It's super personal.
However, I don't think it's wrong to participate in a corporate fast for the camaraderie alone. Just to be like, here is this church family, and they're all fasting. It's
okay,
so
that's
fun.
what I'm saying. There's
beautiful chatter about their Daniel fast, and they're sharing recipes and all that. And I think that's okay.
Okay, that's not what I'm saying. It's beautiful to be able to do that with people. I'm saying it's not cool when you're like,
to be bullied into it.
Yes.
No.
And also, okay, I'm gonna just public confession. I don't know. I'm in rare form today, I guess, but over the years, I have had times. I shared this with you earlier, when they're like, we're going to fast something, when it wasn't a Daniel fast. Like when I was younger.
I know where this is going.
When I was younger and they were like, everybody needs to fast something. I'm like, bet. All right.
I'm fasting decaf.
Yeah, fasting decaf. Yeah. I'm going to fast. 1 year, true story. And people didn't even know any better. Okay. Yeah. Swallow so you don't spit it out. I got real spiritual. Okay. No judgment. I got real spiritual and was like, I'm fasting Mountain Dew. Girl, I don't drink Mountain Dew. I never have drank Mountain Dew. If it was an option, I'm not picking it.
I'm fasting country music.
Do you not like country music?
No. Gosh.
Well, so I had this whole, I didn't know anybody that even drank Mountain Dew until I met Phil. Like his family, because they're from the north. People in Ohio love Mountain Dew and Pepsi. Gross, but yeah, and bland potatoes. I don't know. Anyway, so I'm like, oh yeah, I'm fasting Mountain Dew, and I remember telling our senior pastor that, and because he didn't know me outside of my parents, he was like, look at these kids giving up their soda pop, And I'm like, bro, I don't drink Mountain Dew, but okay, And so that was There have been so many times in my life I'm fasting lobster. Why? Because I don't have access to it. I, one year, said I was fasting crawfish, but it wasn't crawfish season. And they were like, oh, that's good. People are dumb. And it's just like, but really, who's the dumb one? Me, because I wanted to.
Because you were robbing yourself.
Yeah.
Ultimately.
I was robbing myself, but I was feeling this pressure. And it wasn't until later when, and then I'm married to this man who fasts 1 day a week or would go 2 weeks water only. And I'm like, that's good for you.
That's me with the Daniel fast. I'm like, yay, the Daniel fast.
Because you eat.
Because I like vegetables.
You like vegetables and fruit.
Sure.
And so that's it. But to me, that's still, that's a hard.
Amber, why not be excited about a fast? Why not say, I am about to enter into a season where I'm going to tear some things away, but God's coming in.
Sure.
But God's coming in.
Sure. I'm telling you, I think I've grown up. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of growth that's happened in this, and I've learned the beauty of fasting.
Well, I'm going to
I'm going to say, if you've ever been bullied into it, and that's why you have negative feelings, I'm sorry.
Mm-hmm. I think it's all about what attitude we're going in. And again, y'all know me by now. I can't really quote the scriptures, but somewhere in the Bible, it talks about when you fast, don't put on sackcloth and ashes. Don't put on a sad face.
Explain that.
Sackcloth and ashes.
Mm-hmm. I know what it means, but explain it.
When a person would go through a hard time or some sort of devastation, they would pull off their good clothes, their royal clothes, their public clothes, and they would put on old, dirty clothes, and they would put ashes from the fire on any wounds they had or anything like that. They would
also
abase
put
themselves.
it on their heads.
Yes.
If someone died, if you'd lost a child or a loved one, you would put ashes on your head to let the public know this person is in mourning. Leave them alone. The verse you're talking about is Matthew 6:16. It's like, don't make it obvious. I like how the New Living Translation says, and when you fast, don't make it obvious, as the hypocrites do. For they try to look miserable and disheveled so people will admire them for their fasting. And
it's not something that here's the thing. It's not some big secret. You shouldn't take your little book or your Bible and hide it and run around sneaking around like you're fasting something. You don't have to go into hiding, but we're not making banners and putting signs on our doors either. You're not wearing a black strap around your arm. There's no ribbon that says fasting week.
Yeah.
I understand there are some religious affiliations where they will go like on Ash Wednesday and have the ashes placed on their head and they'll wear them for that day. That's fine. That's not what I'm talking about.
Right. That's for sure not what we're talking about. There's something beautiful in the symbolism of that as well. And many liturgical worship settings, they do that. Not just Catholicism, but there's many Methodist and the Episcopal Church and many, many churches do that. And that's a beautiful thing. That is definitely not what we're talking about.
No, not at all. But don't go around and advertise it. However, if someone asks and you are so inclined to invite them in, go ahead and tell them about your fast. It's not as long as you're not boasting in it, it's fine.
Right.
But I would say back to your original question, like, why do we fast? Ask yourself that. Pray about that. A few of the examples in the Bible of fast is Ezra fasted for God's protection.
Right.
Esther fasted in a show of humility and before approaching authority. Daniel fasted to gain understanding and divine wisdom. He was fasting for insight and spiritual growth. Back to the example we talked about before, Daniel was fasting before the fact, so that because little did he know he was going to be called on to give an answer soon.
Right.
And he was prepared when
and you
it
know
was
what?
time.
We're all going to be called on to give answers.
Absolutely.
We live our world right now. If ever there's a time to look for opportunities to fast, it's now.
It's now.
Because the gospel message is becoming increasingly more uncomfortable for people to hear.
Absolutely.
There is a line being drawn in the sand. I'm not trying to super spiritualize this. I'm just calling it how it is. This line has been drawn in the sand, and there's no more riding the fence.
Listen, there is an enemy. I know this makes people feel comfortable, and I'm going to say his name right now. It's the devil. It's Satan.
The devil.
I know it's sometimes it feels hokey, like this is a thing of children. It's not a thing of children.
Right.
He's real. You have an enemy.
And he hates you and wants to destroy you.
And he's
he wants
seeking
to
to
destroy your family.
Absolutely.
Your calling, your purpose. He's out to kill you.
If you can believe
Mm-hmm.
in the Holy Spirit, if you can believe in Jesus and you can believe in God, then you can also know that you have an enemy in the spirit world.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm telling you, I've noticed this throughout my life, but I've noticed it a lot here lately. People who are seemingly unrelated in different areas in my life are all telling me they're being tried with the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
And when I start to hear stuff like that, I really believe that's a spiritual attack. When 8 people that I know in different areas of my life who don't know each other all come to me and say, I have a gallbladder attack. Well, what's going on here?
Right.
You know, what are, and then I start looking for the commonalities. What are these people doing? What do these people stand for? What do they believe in that's in common? What is the enemy fighting against here? I want to know that. I believe it's happening. You can call it what you want. It's not going to hurt my feelings, but I'm telling you, it's happening. But as I hop around here, back to talking about the corporate fast, there is a corporate fast. Most of the fasts in the Bible were corporate fast. When Esther fasted, not only her, but all the Jews and all the Hebrews in the land fasted for her.
Mm-hmm.
The entire city of Nineveh fasted.
Yeah.
For God's mercy. Not only the people, but the animals too.
And let's talk about that, because the whole city fasted, and these are not godly people.
No, they fasted for God's mercy and with a heart of repentance.
Yeah.
And the entire city was transformed. The entire city was transformed.
And what's the biggest transformation? God changed his mind.
God, yes.
He didn't destroy him. Like, come on.
Right.
I'm going to be doing a podcast with a family member that was supposed to die from cancer. At the very least, have to wear a colostomy bag for the rest of his life, which was going to be short-lived. And I'm telling you, people went to fasting. And you can say, well, I know people have died of cancer. You know what? I'm going to tell you something. I believe all God's children are healed. It's either this side of eternity or that.
Yes.
But you will never be able to convince me that healing did not manifest in his life on this side of eternity, because
I believe it.
Fasting wasn't part of it. It was huge. It was huge.
But you know what, Amber? Sometimes fasting doesn't look the way we thought. David fasted for the life of his child who had taken ill. Ultimately, that child died.
Yep.
He was healed on the other side of eternity, as we know.
Right.
But that outcome might not have been the one that David hoped for when he fasted, but his fast actually empowered him towards humility. Empowered to be humble sounds weird, but let me just go ahead and tell you that being humble in your spirit, being humble in your attitude, being humble in your emotions is an extremely empowering experience.
For sure.
But David's fast and the outcome that he did not want to see ultimately empowered him with full dependence on God.
Yeah.
And so the results of our fast may not come instantly. They may not look the way we wanted them to, but know that you've broken down strongholds in the spirit world.
Right.
Right.
And it may be things that we don't ever see.
Absolutely.
We have no idea.
Well, let me tell you something, Amber.
What's happening?
Something powerful that I discovered in studying for this that I have never put together before.
Come on, I want to hear it.
And there are 3 occasions in the Bible where someone was called by the Spirit of God to fast 40 days and nights. Moses, after he saw the burning bush and before his ministry began, that delivered the Hebrews out of the hand of bondage. Elijah fasted 40 days before the onset of his ministry. Jesus
fasted
at 33 years old, went into the wilderness and fasted 40 days.
Jesus' ministry began with fasting.
With fasting.
Like that. Listen, this is not, hey, we need you all to stop and fast 40 days and 40 nights. But there's something to be learned from this.
These 3 fasts, they didn't make a change in a life. They didn't make a change in a home. They didn't make a change in a little community. These 3 fasts that we just mentioned in the Bible, these were irrefutably divinely inspired, and they launched public ministries that changed the foundation of the entire world.
They've changed our lives today.
They continue to change.
Absolutely. I love it.
It's also, I think, important to point out that there was Jesus who fasted 40 days, and then there was Moses and Elijah, and these are the 3 men in the Bible that fasted 40 days. And Moses and Elijah were 2 very fleshly men. They were not divinely born like as Jesus was.
Right.
Yet they stood on the Mount of Transfiguration with Jesus.
Right.
And people would say to Jesus, "Are you Elijah come back? Are you Moses come back?"
Right.
And through hardship, through mental breakdown, emotional breakdown, physical toil, and just gross temptation.
Right.
Foundational elements in our entire world, in the spirit world, in heaven shifted that day.
You've got to understand that our greatest growth as believers happens through pain and sacrifice. And your greatest growth as a person, as a friend, as a spouse, as a parent, as an employee, as a boss, in order for you to grow to be who you need to be, more than you thought you could be, right? You're going to have to go through some stuff. So there is a formula here,
right?
That if we want to grow in our walk with the Lord, and if fasting hasn't been part of that equation for you, I dare you to try it.
Absolutely.
Not because I'm prompting you, not because Aimee's prompting you, but I dare you to try it for yourself. What is it that I need to fast and get rid of? And bro, don't fast Mountain Dew. Don't. Unless you're addicted to Mountain Dew, and probably that's the worst thing in the world.
But with all sincerity, ask
the Lord. What do I need to give up? What do I need to give up? Now,
show me what is in me.
Right. Do you know that my very first fast, and people say, well, fasting is always food. Sure.
No, it's not.
But I mean, people are like, because they're like, well, the Bible.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
But I will tell you, the very first fast that changed my life was not food. The very first fast that changed my life was fasting TV and music. I have music all the time. There's music playing in my head right now while I'm talking to you. Why I can't sing, I don't know. Like, I love music. I love it. I
have a whole other podcast we can talk about why that is, but let's move on.
Does it have to do with my ADHD?
No. Okay. Let's keep going.
Why do I feel like you're analyzing me over there?
No, just think of where music came from.
Girl, don't even start putting the devil on me.
Okay, let's keep going.
Okay.
Go.
So the idea that in that time, like, there were all these different TV shows I was into and all this stuff, and I fasted that. And you know what? And this, my youth pastor, who is still very much a very important part of my life. And he is just an amazing man of God and has a very amazing church in Oklahoma. Love this man and his wife. I mean, they're in top tier people in my life. He told me, I'm like, well, how does that work? And he said, well, Amber, if you, during the time that you would be doing these things, if you'll devote that to spending time with the Lord, your life will change.
Right.
And so you're talking about, this is pre like social media and all the things. I'd go into my room, like they would be watching family television, at nighttime or whatever, everybody's homework's done or whatever. I'd go in my room. I didn't turn on music. I would just sit and start reading my Bible. And I'm not going to lie. When I'm like, this is lame. Like, I kind of hate this.
Right.
And I would just start like trying to find something else to do. A lot of times I just go to sleep because I'm like, this is lame.
Sleep's holy.
But but not in this setting, because he gave me like the formula. What you take away, you fill it with God. You fill it with devotion to the Lord. You don't just turn your lights off and go to sleep. When I started doing that, I experienced a presence of God that I had never experienced in my life. I was a teenager. It changed my life.
You know what is so crazy to me? We, in this day and age, and a little bit back when we were young, when we were much younger, but
we're still young.
We're still young.
Yeah.
Girl. I know. But you know what I mean. For a generation that claims to crave transparency and authenticity the way that we do, we are so quick to pull the shades down on the windows to our own authenticity.
Facts.
I mean, because I'm going to tell you what, it gets a little raw. If you want to be authentic with others, first be authentic with yourself, and it's hard.
Right. Well, we want everybody, it goes back to that junk drawer. We don't want people to know that there's stuff that in our life that we don't know what to do with.
Right.
I don't want you to know that it's not even a bad thing. It's just a useless thing. And it's obviously have a weird attachment to it. And why am I holding on to it? And why can't I just throw it in the trash can? Why am I holding on to same thing with I don't want you to know that this is a struggle. I don't want you to know that I have a hang up on this. Yeah. I don't want you to know that when I'm standing in front of you and I'm talking to you about how good and holy God is and the call he has on your life is pure and holy, that I still have this obsession with The Bachelor. You know what I'm saying? Like whatever that is. We don't want people to know, but you're right. We don't want to admit it to ourselves. Right. I don't want you to know that I've seen every episode of this reality television. I don't want you to know that.
But if you close that drawer and leave it closed, then you can walk by it and ignore what's on the inside of it. But if you pulled that drawer out and left it out, if you open that cabinet door and left it open, if you open that shade to your life and left it up, you're going to have to walk by and be confronted with it.
So it's funny that you said that. There is a young adult that is very, very close to Phil and I. You've met him, Gatlin.
Okay.
Love Gatlin. Gatlin loves Jesus. He is just an amazing human being.
Okay.
Gatlin is close enough to us that he does not know boundaries. I love that until I don't. And here's this guy.
Gatlin, call me and we'll talk about this later.
He graduated business school, Texas A&M. He's a realtor. He does commercial building and he travels around and speaks. Like he's just a pretty incredible human. He was over, he loves to come over here, comes over one night for dinner, and all of a sudden he goes, okay, this made my palms sweaty. Okay. Like it freaked me out.
Dang, Gatlin.
Cooking dinner and he's like, where's your junk drawer?
Sorry about that.
Yeah. And I just
almost had another spit take.
And I'm standing behind the stove and I turn and I look at him. I'm like, what? And he goes, where's your junk drawer? And I said, what again? It is so funny because he goes, where's your junk drawer, ma'am? I'm like, ma'am. Okay. I'm like, why? And he goes, I want to see what's inside your junk drawer. I felt so vulnerable and violated. And this is before the luchador got stuck.
I'm going to look in your junk drawer after we finish.
Oh, you can now because let me tell you what Gatlin did.
Well, then it's not a junk drawer.
It was.
Okay.
And I said, why do you need to see my... So we had this weird banter going back and forth. And Phil's just standing there with a cup of coffee in his hand, just smiling like, oh, Amber's being called out. And he didn't come to my defense. So here's this...
Phil's entertained.
Oh, for sure. This 25-year-old kid that's like, what's in your junk drawer? I'm like, bro, what's in your junk drawer? Dinner's off. We're not eating tonight. Go home, you know.
You're getting a Whataburger. Get out. You're buying it yourself.
Don't let the door hit you where the good Lord split you. So he proceeds. Phil points to where the junk drawer is. Like, and I'm like, I'm looking at him like, we're a team. Like, no. Like, stop. Gatlin, who towers over me, walks over and opens the junk drawer. And he goes, he's just like looking in it. And he said, I'm just always fascinated by what's in people's junk drawers. I'm going to tell you what happened when he left that night. I cleaned that bad boy out. Then I started going through other places in this house that, because if you know me, I am definitely a maximalist and I love things.
Right.
I just started cleaning things out. Like I don't know if I thought Gatlin was going to come back and start exploring every nook and cranny of this house.
Okay, well, we're done now. I got to go throw stuff away.
Yeah. But it really hit something that goes with what we're talking about. I didn't want him. This kid knows me well. I've taken him on missions trips. Like, we've walked through a whole lot of stuff with him. He's seen me without makeup, seen me in my pajamas. That doesn't bother me. I don't want him to see my junk drawer. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And yet what it did was it exposed not a side of Gatlin. It exposed a side of Amber that I didn't like. And I'm like, wait a minute. Why are there things that I don't want to be seen?
Right.
And so it's like what you're saying. It's like, that's what fasting does, is it causes us to clean out.
Can I ask you a question though? Do you feel a little closer to Gatlin after that? Maybe. For sure. I mean, like, yeah. I didn't, like, we're very close to him, but I do feel like, I think what was precious was after it was actually really weird. After he looks through the junk drawer and I feel very just like exposed, he was done. And there was no like, oh my God, Amber, what is this? Or why do you have this? And I mean, there was some weird stuff in there and he picked it up and laughed and put it back. And I'm just like, I felt really, but after it was over, there was no judgment. There was no like, hey, it wasn't weird, but it was cool because I realized that he exposed something in me that needed to be exposed. Right.
I wanted to clean it out, but I also felt safe, like he wasn't judging us. Do you know what I'm saying?
No,
and I think
it.
that you bringing that up, I hadn't thought about that, but that ties so much into let's clean out. Okay, so do you have anything else you want to say on fasting? Because we've talked a lot offline. Is there anything that you want to share before we jump into the other?
No, only that. And we can go over this at the very end. Let's talk about what we're about to do.
Okay.
About what we're about to do. And then let's each maybe just give a little brief synopsis of our personal reason for doing this, if you're comfortable with that.
For sure. Okay. So the background of this, like I said earlier, is that you were like, hey, how do you feel about fasting? And you got me this book by Alicia Britt. I say Cole. How do you pronounce her last name?
I say Choli. We don't know.
We don't know, but she's an incredible author, incredible speaker, incredible human, right? And so what we want to challenge you to do, go on Amazon. We'll put a link in the show notes for you to get this book. It's like $10, right? And what's cool about it is this is not, like we talked about, your traditional fast.
Right.
It's what you mentioned earlier. It's a fasting of the heart.
Absolutely.
And it actually says on the back, it says, what if your family fasted denial? What if your friends fasted comparison? What if your generation fasted escapism? What if your church fasted spectatorship? Such heart fast could trigger a spiritual revolution. And so get this book. And I think what we want to challenge you to do, and you know what, can I just also be honest? I mean, it matches my shirt today.
It's lovely.
Fun fact, I never wear color, and I wear color and people don't know what to do with themselves.
Were you inspired by the book?
I think I was inspired by what was clean, you to be honest. So this book looks more like it would be like a chick book. But I have several male pastors. We have several male pastor friends that have read it, and it's changed their life.
So as a little aside on each day throughout this, each day's fast and devotional will be followed up by a small section that is just a little commentary on the history of Lent. And that's really interesting if you're into church history and that sort of thing. So
this is how it works. You'll go ahead and order your book. Lent starts on Ash Wednesday, which is 5th. March 5th. So what you would do is get your book, and then what we are encouraging everyone to do before March 5th is read the foreword and
The introduction.
And then don't get ahead of everybody. And then on March 5th, read your first day.
We'll start day 1. Mm-hmm.
Right. And okay, so when Aimee gave me this, I was like, this is actually a different book. My original one has been so torn up. I just ordered a new one.
Well, we've spent years in these books.
Yeah.
I also ordered a new one this year.
Okay. So without giving it all away, some of the things that you will fast in no particular order here is, the one that really, really gets me every year is comparison.
Mm-hmm.
And you've got
discontentment. That's me.
That's fun.
Mine is fixing it. One day you'll fast fixing it. And I know that sounds weird and I don't want to spoil anything, but if you are a person who just likes to solve problems, you might find that that's a difficult day for you.
Yeah. You fast intimidation.
Absolutely.
You will fast God as a job, which is like, wow. You'll fast escapism.
Mm-hmm.
You'll fast apathy.
Mm-hmm.
You'll fast
tidy faith. I think that's
tidy faith. Oh my gosh, yeah.
We like our little checklist, and we like to put things in little compartments and silo all these areas of our life, and life's just not like that. And so there's a lot to learn throughout this, and a lot of things you'll see. Oh, here's what we're fasting today, and how do I do that? And just read and jump in and come to the Facebook page, because there'll be some discussion going on there about how this is working out for us and how this might look differently from person to person.
And we encourage you to jump on the Facebook page and share. Now, there will be days, because this has been the case for us over the last, for me, 9 years, for you longer. This will be my 9th year to do it. There are years that certain things will stand out and really just be like, this is super personal, this is super private. And then the next year, it doesn't have that same effect. Why? Because life changes. Mm-hmm. Situations change, things evolve, hardships happen. And because we are constantly going through things have a different effect. So there's 40 days. And so the way it works, the way Lent works is you fast, in Lent, you fast every day except for Sunday.
So Monday through Saturday is a fast day.
Right. And so that's the way this book is set up. So you'll start on Wednesday, March 5th. You'll actually start before on reading ahead on the introduction and everything. And then March 5th, you'll do that Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. You'll take Sunday off and you'll pick back up on Monday. Mm-hmm. If you're not following Alicia on Instagram, I highly recommend, because she also does a daily walkthrough, but it's just her talking about it. And our Facebook page will be a place to discuss it.
Right. Well, and maybe not every day, but certainly throughout this, either you or I or both of us will be offering commentary as we go. But please understand, we're not here to conduct a fast or even really to facilitate it. It's simply a journey that we're on. We're inviting you along.
Right. Absolutely. And if sometimes things happen, right? Like I forgot to do it or whatever. Don't freak out. If you want to, I feel like it's hard to go back and try to do 2 fasts in one day. Because you think it's a lot and not a lot, but it is. Because you're realizing all day today, I'm doing whatever. Like, you don't realize how much of this stuff plays into your life.
As the day goes on a lot of days, you'll become more aware of it as the day goes longer. And sometimes it towards the end of the day, it'll really feel like you're dragging your feet a little bit. And you realize, I didn't realize I carried that so much in my life. Yeah.
Right. So if you overdo, if you skip a day or miss a day, it's not the end of the world. This is not.
Yeah. Don't feel like you have to go back and try to catch up. Jump in wherever you are.
And if you forget where you're at, you could go on to Alicia's Instagram. You can come onto the Facebook page, whatever, and see where we're at. And again, like, it's it's going to be a beautiful journey that's individual for each person. And if you're doing this with like, if you're like, hey, I would like for my friend to do this, or I would like my spouse to do this, do not share a book.
Right.
Because there's so many journaling places in there. I know Aimee and I were talking about this earlier, the importance of having an additional journal, especially if you're going to do it again next year, because you're going to want space to write all that out.
Go ahead and note some keywords or key thoughts that you may have while you're going through this. But if you're really feeling something on a particular fast, why don't you go in and write that out in your prayer journal or your other, whatever you're journaling on, or type it up in a Word doc or whatever, and hold on to it. Hold it close.
Yeah. Another thing, because we both love Audible books, there is an Audible of this. I think the Audible is great personally when paired with the paper book. This is not an Audible book, in my opinion, that you can do on your own, because there's things you need to see. There's additional
charts, graphs. There's other,
for sure,
lots of visuals.
Yeah, that you're going to want to have access to. So I've done the Audible before. Like if I'm in a hurry that morning, I'll listen to it on the way somewhere, and then that afternoon go back and write out my thoughts. If I don't recommend doing that every day, but it's great for emergencies.
I think it's important to note too that if you're a student of the Bible or theology at all, you will understand that sometimes you hear a word spoken, but seeing it, and you may not realize those two are the same word.
Right.
And so she will use a lot of those types of words.
Yeah, and she references, what's his name in here, quite a bit.
Dr. Leonard Sweet.
Right. So I feel like that in itself is a draw to men.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
For sure. You know, so share a little bit about what this book has meant to you, and then I can do the same, because it's been life-changing.
So I was in some sort of ladies conference online Bible study years ago, and Alicia was a speaker there, and she introduced this book, and the book launched. And so I was like, yeah, I think I need that. And I jumped on it. Why is it been so important to me? And that is because, again, I'm going to just be kind of reading this off to you guys, because I poured this out on paper and I don't want to try to drudge it up again. So here, I'll just read it to you.
Okay.
Number 1, I am a brooder. I hold grudges. I hold hurt, and I mull it over in my mind, and I play out conversations, and I play out scenarios that did not or may not ever happen. And I kind of like how the grit turns into a pearl in an oyster. I feel like I do that a lot in my life. Also, I feel sorry for myself a lot. And I like to live in my own head. I don't like to. I do live in my own head. And I absolutely, all caps, need to step outside of myself.
Wow.
Really for more than just 40 days. But this series of fasts has been a catalyst in my life for growth, and both spiritual and personal growth. And I can't say it again. I can't say it enough. I need this. Yeah. Not only do I need it, but my family needs this for me.
Right.
My community needs this from me.
Yeah.
And while God doesn't need or demand this fast from me, He expects and honors my obedience in the matter of fasting.
For sure. Wow. That's awesome. I similar. I get into my own head. I overthink everything. And I will have not my proudest, right? Because I can walk somebody else through how to just find freedom in this. And then I sit in that place of bondage. But the idea that, it's this certain way, and I will have 35,000 scenarios play out before a situation ever happens. Right. And I'm exhausted by the time we get to said situation, right? For me, I feel like so much of this process of this book has given me, it's validated that I'm not crazy. Well, probably I am, but not in these things. I'm not crazy to feel these feelings. Obviously, they're real feelings that a lot of people feel, but it's not God's heart for me. Right. So it like the first time I read it, I was like, wow. The fact that it was written, and it was just like, has she get a hold of my journals? Did she how did she know about all this? But that these are real things that people deal with.
Right.
But just because it's real and it's valid doesn't mean it's God's best. So sit in that for a minute. Acknowledge that that's real.
Right.
This is not about an emotional, like, oh, but there are emotions.
There are emotions.
Sometimes I've had anger that, like, there have been times I'm like, this day, I don't know if you remember, there's been times I've reached out to you. I'm like, today was awful.
Yeah.
I hated today's fast. It was so necessary, but I hated it. And by the next day, I'm like, oh my goodness, I'm so glad I did that. So I feel like for me, it was because I see where I am a people pleaser. I see where I want everybody to be happy. I want everybody to be my friend. I want everybody to be, and so in that, things like comparison, things like Jesus is a job, things like overthinking, those things. Look, I'll fast food all day long. But these get to a root of things that I've never had anything else get to.
We live in a day and age where we're very reliant on constant feedback. And when we don't get that feedback from outside sources, we tend to give it to ourselves internally.
Right.
I'll never forget one day, I think it was the day that we were fasting revisionism, and I'm driving down the road. I'm on 59 South, and I'm round about the Beltway. And I am playing out a scenario in my head. What did they mean? Oh, I wonder if they meant this. Oh, but I wonder if they meant that. Did I misunderstand that? Did it really happen this way? And I realized you are revising the situation repeatedly in your head, and stop it right now. And I just remember like looking out my windshield. You know what caught my attention while I'm going over in this, and then I'm beating myself up because I'm supposed to be fasting this revisionism, and here I am revising, and then a screw or something flies up off the road and cracks my window. And I mean, it was just like a loud rap on my window, like, stop it right now. And I just got so mad at myself. And I just remember thinking, this is hard.
Yeah, it is hard.
This is hard.
But it's not, I don't know if you felt this way. I never have felt like, with as difficult as this is, it's not condemning.
It is not condemning. And if I could bill this as a fast from myself,
that's 100% what it is.
And I
feel like
it's refreshing because I get a little stale in my thinking.
Well, and it goes back to the junk drawer. It's like, I got to get this stuff out of my life because I'm better with it not there. It's unnecessary.
And I'm not just better, but I have more to offer. I have more.
There's more space.
Yeah.
For sure. For sure. I can't tell you guys how excited I am that we're going to do this. We've got other podcasts coming out that are back to our normal, right? But this one, I'm just excited about you joining us March 5th and doing this book. Order it now. We're linking it, and we'll have it on social media for you to do. And we'll also have the link to the Facebook group. And if you're like, I don't want to get on there and say anything, then don't. But you can read what other people are saying.
Just follow along. Also, I don't know, different churches might do this. If your church participates in some sort of corporate fast, like a Daniel's fast or something during Lent, that's fine. Don't feel like it's a one or the other thing.
Right.
This can run absolutely concurrent with something else you might be doing.
Yeah. And don't let this, okay, I'm glad you said that. This should never take the place of an actual food fast that the Lord's asking you to do. And again, like we said earlier, if you've never done that, we challenge you to go ahead and
start with a meal.
And can I just say, don't let it be breakfast if breakfast is an easy meal for you to skip.
Right.
Because I will drink coffee and then not eat till lunch. So fasting breakfast is not a fast.
Or, give up meat, give up dairy. I don't, pick something. You know what is so crazy? And this is totally off the subject of this. A young woman told me not so long ago, it's something that you mentioned earlier in the podcast about fasting TV or music. One lady told me last year, a young woman, maybe she's 25, 26 years old. She said she felt really impressed that she needed to fast secular music. And she thought, well, this is kind of dumb. Like, what's this going to do? And she told me that at the end of 21 days, she did it for 21 days. She said, I was blown away by how much I have interwoven secular music and secular artists into my life. I didn't realize it was such a big deal.
Wow.
And how it was affecting her and how much she relied on that little boost in personality or that little pep in her step that her favorite songs gave her. And that's kind of what that's kind of what this fast is getting at here is what are you relying on? Where are you getting your energy? Where are you getting your emotional support from?
Mm-hmm.
Where's it coming from?
For sure. So. I just think what I do love about this is that in your day-to-day jobs and relationships, they continue. You're just having to be intentional about the conversations, the reactions, and the mental response that you have. And I think it's easy to then stop and go, okay, Lord, in that moment, my boss just said this.
Mm-hmm.
I'm taking it all kinds of ways.
Mm-hmm.
Help me see this from the right perspective. My husband just responded this way, and I feel very hurt.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if he meant to hurt me. Mm-hmm. I can ask him, but also, where's the root of this? Why am I taking everything personal?
Right. Or my kid came home with their feelings hurt from school, and I want so bad to fix it, but maybe I'm just going to sit with them in their grief today.
Yeah.
But and this is a little bit of an aside here, but I think it goes right along with this. I mean, this is 2025 and we have a new president in the office, and there's this whole Make America Healthy Again and the RFK Jr. and all this is going on. And people are have become very aware of what they're putting into their bodies, what we're consuming.
Right.
And we're being very careful about it. And I'm going to challenge you that in not only to be careful what you're consuming in terms of medications and food, but what are you reading? What are you watching? What are you doing? What are you listening to?
Right.
And furthermore, be as aware of what you're putting out there as you are about what you're taking in.
For sure. For sure. And so this is the perfect time to take responsibility.
Right.
For your life, for who you are, for like, if you're a young parent and you're like, hey, maybe I grew up in a situation that wasn't ideal. I don't want to be the kind of parent that I had. Take responsibility.
Right.
This is going to help. Maybe you have had awful relationships displayed for you your whole life. Mm-hmm. And now you're in a relationship that's moving towards marriage. Mm-hmm. And you're like, I don't want my marriage to look like my parents' marriage or like the marriages that were around me. Take responsibility and do something about it.
I don't want to be angry all the time. Right. I don't want to be flying off the handle and short-tempered.
Right. I'm lazy. I project.
I do.
Do you know what I'm saying?
No, I'm
you know
here. Yeah.
It's like it's always somebody else's fault. When you know deep in your knower that it's not, this is the time to take that responsibility. And guys, I mean, Aimee just sat here and just beautifully articulated all the things that she feels about herself. And then I fumbled behind her. But the reality is we all have stuff.
We do.
And it's not okay
if you think you don't have stuff, you
got lots.
you got more. You got some stuff.
You got some stuff. Okay. But the idea is to not go, oh, wow. Yeah, well, that's just who I am. No, the idea is to recognize this is the struggle, but you don't have to stay in this.
Here's the thing. Yeah, that might be who you are, but this is all about less of you and more of him.
Bingo. So, you should do podcasts.
I should.
Yeah.
We should do them together. We're so funny. People would love to hear us talk.
I think we're funny.
Okay. But
I think we are so funny. Do you know who doesn't think we're funny?
The wrong ones.
The men we're married to.
The wrong ones.
Maybe they should fast. Bad humor.
Maybe they.
And then they would learn good humor. Do you think? I don't
think so.
No. My daughter informed me the other day.
Good humor by immersion, and they still don't get it.
I know. It's like, wow, you've been in the presence of amazing humor and you don't know. My daughter told me the other day that her job in this world is to keep me humble. And I did not like that. I was like, get out of my house.
Bless it.
Bless
it, Lord.
Okay. Well, I'm excited to see what comes out of this. Again, don't follow my example of early fasting days and fast things that you don't.
Right.
We should all fast Mountain Dew because it's awful for you.
I've been fasting Mountain Dew for 50 years.
Have you ever had a Mountain Dew?
I mean, probably.
It's so gross.
Know. Okay.
Well, it's disgusting.
You know what else is disgusting?
Tell
I'm about
me.
to get kicked out of Texas. Dr. Pepper.
Yeah. Okay.
Prune juice soda.
Okay. I'm not a big Dr. Pepper fan, but if it's summertime and I stop by a Buc-ee's, I will. Don't wrinkle your nose at me. The Dr. Pepper ices at Buc-ee's, they hit different. They are so good. So good. Like, I think about them and I'm like,
so good. So good.
They're great. Yeah, I'm not a big Dr. Pepper fan. I'm a Diet Coke girl.
Sodas aren't my thing.
I wish they weren't not my thing.
I do like a fizzy water, but
like a Topo Chico?
Sweet drinks gross me out.
Topo Chico?
Yeah, sure.
LaCroix? Do you like that? Do you like LaCroix?
It smells like you ate strawberries and ran your drink under your armpit. Thank you for joining us today on Grounds for Conversation.
Yes.
We're going to fast the end of this podcast.
No, we're not. We're keeping it on. That's under your okay. Okay. Yeah. Thank you guys for joining us. And
no offense to LaCroix.
You're going to get a letter in the mail.
This was not a paid or unpaid sponsorship, and please don't sue us.
Thank you guys for joining us, and look in the show notes, get this book, and also check out the ones on fasting from Jensen Franklin. There you go. Yeah, this one. And we'll catch you guys next time.
See ya.
Bye.